What kind of aircraft refuses to fade into history after more than 7 decades of service? Imagine a bomber designed when black and white television was still common, yet still taking part in modern military operations while nations race to develop 6th-generation weapons. It sounds like fiction, but the Boeing B-52 Stratofortress continues to challenge every prediction ever made about its retirement. In an era dominated by stealth technology and hypersonic missiles, this enormous 8-engine bomber remains one of the most influential symbols of American air power. When the B-52 first lifted off in April 1952, the world was entering a completely different age of aviation. The Cold War was intensifying, nuclear deterrence had become a central pillar of U.S. strategy, and Boeing was tasked with creating an aircraft capable of carrying devastating payloads across continents. At the time, few people imagined that the bomber would still be flying long after generations of fighters, bombers, and political leaders had come and gone. Instead of becoming a museum exhibit, it quietly evolved into one of the longest-serving combat aircraft in military history. Many people assume that military technology follows a simple pattern. Every new aircraft replaces the previous one. That expectation seemed reasonable when the Convair B-58 Hustler entered service with its supersonic performance, followed later by the Rockwell B-1 Lancer and eventually the stealth-focused Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit. Each was introduced with promises of representing the future of strategic bombing. Yet, despite their impressive capabilities, none of them completely displaced the aging Stratofortress. The reason had little to do with nostalgia and everything to do with a mission that no other bomber could perform quite as efficiently. The B-52 was never designed to win beauty contests. Its massive wings, distinctive landing gear, and 8 engines reflected practicality rather than elegance. What mattered was its ability to carry an extraordinary amount of weapons across enormous distances while remaining flexible enough to accept new technologies decade after decade. Instead of redesigning the entire aircraft, the U.S. Air Force repeatedly modernized its electronics, communications, navigation systems, and weapons integration, allowing an airframe born in the early Cold War to remain relevant in an age of digital warfare. Inside military planning rooms, the conversation gradually shifted from replacing the B-52 to expanding what it could accomplish. The bomber transformed from a traditional gravity bomb platform into something much more versatile. Cruise missiles such as the AGM-86B gave it the ability to launch nuclear weapons from hundreds of miles away, while the AGM-158 Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missile allowed precision conventional strikes without forcing the aircraft into heavily defended airspace. Other weapons, including the AGM-154 Joint Standoff Weapon, JDAM precision-guided bombs, and Harpoon anti-ship missiles, turned the aircraft into a flexible launch platform capable of supporting missions over land and sea. This flexibility explains why military planners continue assigning important missions to an aircraft older than many of the people who maintain it. Rather than rushing directly over hostile territory, the B-52 increasingly serves as a long-range weapons carrier, remaining outside dangerous air defense envelopes while releasing advanced standoff munitions. That shift reflects a broader change in modern warfare, where survivability often depends less on speed and more on distance, information, and precision. The bomber became less about dropping bombs overhead and more about extending American reach far beyond the battlefield. Recent combat operations have reinforced that lesson. During Operation Epic Fury in 2026, U.S. Central Command employed strategic bombers, including the B-52 Stratofortress, B-1B Lancer, and B-2 Spirit, in coordinated strikes against military targets linked to Iran. Reports described hundreds of precision attacks directed at missile infrastructure and command facilities over an intense operational period. While stealth bombers penetrated heavily defended areas, the B-52 contributed through its unmatched capacity to launch large numbers of standoff weapons from safer distances. The operation reminded observers that modern air campaigns rely on different aircraft performing complementary roles rather than competing against one another. Yet the real surprise was unfolding far from the battlefield, inside engineering facilities and manufacturing plants. Instead of preparing retirement ceremonies, Boeing, Rolls-Royce, and the U.S. Air Force began investing billions of dollars into a transformation few expected. The modernization program aimed to create the B-52J, an upgraded version intended to remain operational well into the middle of the 21st century. That decision raised an obvious question. Why pour enormous resources into an aircraft conceived before humanity had even landed on the moon? The answer became clearer as the modernization plans expanded. Rolls-Royce F-130 engines promised greater fuel efficiency, lower maintenance requirements, and improved reliability compared to the aging Pratt and Whitney TF-33 power plants. At the same time, the radar modernization program introduced an active electronically scanned array radar capable of dramatically improving situational awareness and target tracking. New cockpit displays, upgraded electrical systems, improved networking, and compatibility with Joint All-Domain Command and Control would connect the bomber with virtually every major element of the modern American military. Then came the most significant development of all. The upgraded B-52J is expected to integrate future hypersonic weapons, allowing the bomber to launch missiles traveling at speeds exceeding Mach 5 while remaining well outside hostile defenses. Suddenly, the aircraft's age became almost irrelevant. Its enormous payload capacity, once designed for gravity bombs, could now serve as the launch platform for some of the fastest and most advanced weapons ever developed. The old bomber was no longer simply surviving technological change, it was becoming one of its beneficiaries. This is where the story changes perspective. Many assume the B-21 Raider represents the complete future of American strategic bombing, and in many respects it does. Its stealth characteristics allow it to penetrate sophisticated air defense systems and strike heavily protected targets. But the B-52J is not intended to replace the Raider, nor is the Raider meant to replace the Stratofortress. Instead, the U.S. Air Force envisions both aircraft working together, with the B-21 opening corridors inside contested airspace while the B-52J delivers overwhelming volumes of long-range precision weapons from safer positions hundreds of miles away. Seen through that lens, the billions invested in modernization are no longer difficult to understand. The funding is not merely preserving an old airplane. It is preserving an operational concept that remains strategically valuable. Few aircraft can match the B-52's ability to carry such a diverse combination of cruise missiles, precision-guided munitions, maritime strike weapons, and potentially hypersonic systems on a single mission. Its enormous payload, combined with aerial refueling and constant modernization, creates a capability that newer aircraft do not necessarily duplicate. Perhaps the greatest achievement of the Stratofortress is not that it survived 70 years. It is that every decade changed its purpose without erasing its value. It has flown through the Cold War, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Afghanistan, counterterrorism campaigns, and now into a strategic environment defined by peer competition and advanced missile technology. Few military platforms have adapted so completely while remaining central to national defense planning. History often celebrates revolutionary inventions, but sometimes the most remarkable stories belong to machines that simply refuse to become obsolete. The Boeing B-52 Stratofortress is no longer just an aircraft from another era. It is evidence that innovation does not always require starting over. Sometimes it comes from recognizing timeless strengths and continuously building upon them. As newer bombers join the fleet and warfare enters another technological revolution, the unmistakable silhouette of the B-52 still reminds the world that endurance can be just as powerful as invention.